I'm 48 female, a maxillofacial, oral surgeon, married to my husband, 51 male, an anesthesiologist. We have 2 daughters. My brother is 42, and his wife is 40 female. My family is Asian, and as typical, we all went into high-achieving careers except for my brother. He now works for our family's dental practice, making $135K per year for doing basically nothing. He was 26 when he met his now wife, who was a single mom at the time with 2 kids. The kids were very young when they got together, and to my understanding, my brother took them in and raised them as his own, formally adopting them. My parents were tired of supporting my brother's mistakes and decided that they were done supporting him. When my husband and I got married, our wedding was fully paid for by my parents, and we also received a lovely house in a great area as a wedding gift. My parents were vehemently against my brother's relationship with his then girlfriend, as they felt he shouldn't be dating a single mom. They did not support their relationship at all, and did not pay or attend their wedding. Before their wedding, they asked him to sign a prenup with his fiancée if he was to go through with the wedding. He refused, and I think this only deepened the rift. I did not attend as I was doing a sabbatical overseas. My brother had trouble finding employment and approached my parents for help. They were reluctant, but bought them a house where they now live rent-free, and gave them some money for living expenses. My brother felt incredibly insulted that they retained the title of the house while giving a house to my husband and I. He believes that they always favored me over him and called me the golden child. They definitely did treat the grandkids very differently. However, they did not accept my brother's stepkids as their grandkids and never used to give them presents for Christmas or birthdays. Both my daughters got cars for their 16th birthday, a fully funded ride to college and grad school, and a fund to buy a house. They also got lavish presents for special occasions, etc. My brother's stepkids did not get any of that though. When my brother and his wife had their biological son, my parents were not really interested in him. Sister-in-law tried to form a relationship between her kids and my parents, but they refused. My father died recently, and he disinherited my brother, leaving all assets and the practice to me, including their house. My brother approached me to ask for his inheritance, asking for some part of the business and money to make the lives of his kids and mine equal, saying that it was unfair that we were living lives of privilege while his family had to suffer. At the time, I refused. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Those asking for why my parents had to support my brother. My brother is what you would describe as failure to launch. He didn't do great in high school or in college. He failed in his chosen degree twice before shifting to an art history degree, which barely he passed. He also misused prescription D for ADHD, which were not prescribed to him, and went to rehab twice. He has no marketable skills and was not able to find a job before my parents stepped in to help. His resentment towards my family and I stems from the fact that he thinks I was our parents, particularly my dad's, favorite child. That is partially true, as our parents valued academic achievement very highly. My dad favored me because I became a dentist like him and never caused any problems, unlike my brother. To be honest, it's cause my parents babied him a lot when he was younger. Second edit. It was my father's wish for me not to help my brother's kids, as he didn't consider them part of the family. As it was his and my mother's money, I did not want to go against their wishes. My mother is vehemently against helping my brother's kids. Third edit. My brother can't sue for his inheritance. It is structured in the form of a trust that controls the company for tax purposes. I retain most control, however my mother also is a trustee. There is no money, it is not earmarked for my mother's care. The inheritance was real estate and the chain of dental practices totaling several millions of dollars. I provide for my mother through my own savings. Fourth edit. For those asking why I had everything paid for, it's because my parents favored me more. I was the studious one, and I followed in my dad's footsteps to become a dentist, eventually becoming a surgeon. My brother always had problems with studying in D and wasn't always a responsible person. My parents paid for my kids because they were proud of them. One of them is completing residency as a plastic surgeon, and the other is getting her master's degree in computer science from the Ivy League school that was my alma mater. My brother's stepkids did not do as well. One of them dropped out of community college, and the other is unemployed as well. His bio son has low-functioning autism and is at the level of a 2-year-old and needs constant care. I would give him the title to the house and call it done. It's clear that his kids have not been treated entirely fairly. But by the same token, he is not entitled to anything. It's your parents' money to leave to whom they choose. I'm sure there is more that is not listed here, as your post implies that your brother expects things without putting in the work behind it. He's living rent-free and making $135K a year. How the heck are they suffering? Also, it's not your job or responsibility to make you all live equal lives. Life is tough, and he needs to get a helmet. Sounds like your mom is still alive? If so, let her deal with this. Sounds like your brother didn't want to work for anything in his life, and they fear he would squander their hard work. As much as I want to say you are, you're not the a-hole. The reality is your dad left what he wanted to who. You are under no obligation to supplement his life. With that said, it wouldn't hurt you or your kids to help him out some. You're the a-hole currently, but you can change that. Stop the cycle and help your brother. At least give him the house properly. Surely that would be no skin off your nose. My ex and I have 4 boys, married at 21. Our youngest was the surprise baby and is 5 years younger than the next youngest kid. He has always tried to compete with his older brothers, who excelled in sports and school, but couldn't because he was smaller and had a learning disability. So he has a bit of an inferior complex, I think. He was the hardest to raise. When he was 16, his mom and I fell in love with other people and divorced. She and I are friends and we see each other often. There are no hard feelings. Our son had no plans after high school except to pursue his art. My ex and I agreed to let him take a gap year and he could stay in either of our house. But then it's either working or college. After that year, he decides to bum off my ex's parents. He was completely estranged from us during that year. We suspected he was getting into D and convinced them to kick him out. He lived in a van for 6 months. We helped him get a minimum wage job, and he currently lives with his mom and her new husband. My son is almost 21. All of a sudden, my son announces he is getting married to some girl he met. She is a bigger train wreck than he is. I asked if she was pregnant, and my son said no, but they want to have kids. My other 3 sons married and started families early, but they were prepared and mature enough. They also support their own families. My son is not ready for this move. My ex is allowing them both to live with her mainly because my son's girlfriend has no family and nowhere to go. She doesn't support their getting married, but won't stop it. My son and this girl cannot afford a wedding, so they asked to have one on my beach properties. I refused, and am public enemy number 1. For the first time in years, I'm fighting with my ex over it. She thinks we should just let them crash on their own so he doesn't blame anyone but himself. Our other son thinks the whole thing is a joke. Edit. Everyone, including my son, is aware that he has an issue with alcohol. Because of this, his mom doesn't allow alcohol in her house. When my son talked about his wedding plans, he wanted to have tons of alcohol. This shows how immature he is. Edit. And of course, they want to do the whole wedding registry, cash only, even though they don't pay rent at his mom's place. Edit. I have no regrets about the art stuff. He met some rich art kids who basically made their money from selling their art to their rich mommy and daddy. Our family has money too, and he thought he could just do that. For example, he asked me to buy a painting he did of a toad. I told him I would buy it for $40. He wanted $500, cash. You're the a-hole, dude. If you don't want to host the wedding, fine. But this entire post kinda just craps on him. Maybe it's possible that he turned out this way on some sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. As a young adult, I can tell you it's really hard to succeed when it feels like your family doesn't believe in you. You're the a-hole, and so are your other kids. The attitude you've displayed here, no wonder the kid turned out a train wreck. Unstable family life, a father who blatantly considers him to be inferior, and who won't spare a few hours of their time to help their son with their wedding. You're the a-hole. I can't imagine ever talking about my son the way you're talking about yours. It just seems like you don't even like him. He is an adult. He is your child. He's getting married. Support it, host it, love him. Stop being a jerk. I, 34 female, and my mother never really got along. She always told me that I'm not good enough, while she treated my younger brother like a golden child. So I moved to my dad and my stepmom and my half-siblings. I build up a good life for me and make my money with an online business and good investments. My mom and dad are very proud of me for that, but my mother still thinks I should go back to school, university. One of my investments was a nice house in another country. I moved there and I couldn't be happier because that's where I met my now husband, 37 male. His parents are my neighbors. They're amazing and actually introduced us to each other because we both love photography. My in-laws and my family get along really good, except for my mother. She thinks I should have married someone from my own country and that I should move back there because it's hard for her to visit us a couple times a year. Well, my husband and I always knew that we wanted to adopt, and 3 years ago, we were able to welcome 3 boys into our home. They're 5, 8, and 11, and brothers. Both our families took them in as they had always been there, and they even spent 2 weeks in the summer at my parents' house. When my mother came to visit us for a week, she couldn't stop telling them what to do and what not. For example, all of them have a part of chores, even if it is just helping with setting up the table or feeding the cats. She made a lot of comments about the parents should do all that stuff. She even tried to get into my son's rooms to clean them up or move the furniture around. My husband and I think that their rooms are their responsibility, and we don't enter them without permission, and we only help them cleaning up if they asked for it. They keep clean most of the time anyway, and they have locks and keys for their doors cause we think privacy is a big deal. When I saw her trying to go while my boys were at school, I told her that it's against the rules and it hurts their trust. She brushed me off, but I caught her again a couple hours later. That's when I asked her why she can't respect my rules in my house and my way of parenting. She said that as long as she's my mother, and these filthy gold diggers try to live in my home, she has every right to make sure they're not stealing and using me and my husband just because we adopted them. I immediately kicked her out. I pushed her out of my house and closed the door before I packed her stuff and threw it to her feet. I blocked her number and told her if she's not off my property, I would call the cops. She got a flight back home and is trying to blow up my phone, my husband's, and the ones of my in-laws. She even tried to get my dad to speak to me, and my brother is telling me that I'm an ungrateful a-hole for doing something like this to my own mother, who only tried to help. So, am I the a-hole? It is a very good thing it takes a plane for her to get to you, not the a-hole. Keep doing what you're doing. It's absolutely none of her concern. Not the a-hole. Should have just told her not to worry about your money or property. It's not like she or your brother are getting any of it. The gold diggers are getting every last cent. That would have put her over the top. You actually kicked your mama out of the door? Well, good for you. You are 34 years old, married with children. She can't run your life like you were a little kid. And now she is blowing up your phone and has little flying monkeys harassing you. It's time to start blocking people until they show they can behave and mind their own damned business. Not the a-hole. Long and complicated backstory, but in a nutshell, my parents were neglectful a-holes who gave zero ducks about me growing up and make no attempt to even hide the favoritism. I spent 19 years of my life being told how I'm a failure and how my brother is just so much better than me in every way. I learned early on to never rely on them for anything. Emotionally, I never needed them. They taught me that. Not like they did it prior to 18 anyway, but at 18, I went bye-bye. I went to community college. Then when my savings ran out, I enlisted in the military, got out, and got my bachelor's and master's all paid for. My brother also got his college all paid for by my parents, as well as having his living expenses. Fast forward years. They're unable to retire because said golden child was stealing from them directly from their accounts. The bank said that they can't do anything because they willingly gave him access to their accounts. They refused to sue him to recover a tiny portion back, and here we are now. In Mexican culture, kids usually send USD to Mexico for their parents, and this is where, according to them, I'm the a-hole. Don't get me wrong, I can financially afford to give them money, but I refuse to. They asked if then they could stay at my backyard studio, and I told them I'm renting it out, and even then, I don't want to have them anywhere near me. My youngest sisters say I'm being unreasonable and should help them because they're your parents. But they literally never acted like it, and if they want to help them so badly, then they can do it themselves. You're the only one who's financially stable. Yeah, so I did it myself. I told them to go ask the golden child, the one who could do absolutely no wrong, and the one who was constantly pounded into me that was so much better than me. I did offer to help pay for a lawyer to sue my brother for some of the money back, but they refused. So I told them I couldn't do anything for them, and to go ask their favorite child. After all, his house was paid for by you. It's your house. Not the a-hole. Offering them a lawyer was an excellent compromise. Not the a-hole. Essentially, your parents are asking you to subsidize their unequal treatment of your brother and his having stolen from them. Don't let them guilt you into that. If others in your family feel strongly about your parents' financial status, they should feel free to support your parents. Not the a-hole. Doesn't sound like they treated you like family. So why should you treat them like that? Just because you now have the money, now you're worth something to them? Kudos to you for offering money for a lawyer. I'd stick with that and let them get their money from Golden Boy. So my father passed away a few months ago, and in his will, he left my parents' house to me. My mother was never on the lease. It was solely him, and he left it to me. It's been a constant point of contention between me and my sisters over this. They are claiming that the house belongs to my mom, but my dad left it to me. He and I have a special bond, and he told me he knew the house was best kept in my hands when he passed, and that I would make the right decision. I've decided to sell the house. I told my mom I would help her get settled into a retirement home, or if she wants, she can live with one of my sisters, and I'll give her a monthly allowance. I also told my sisters I would share some of the profits from the sale of the house. I made it clear that my father wrote in his will that I would be sole possessor of the house, so I will give them the amount I find appropriate. One of my sisters didn't even invite me to her wedding, and the other barely talks to me. I am just doing what my father wanted me to. Does that make me an a-hole? That's the choice word my sisters have used to describe me. Nice of you to offer up your sister's homes as a new home for your mom after you kick her out of her own. Did you check with your sisters about that first? You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Your father was trusting you to make sure your mother, his wife, whom he loved and with whom he built a loving home, could rest easy without worrying about the financial burden of running a home. That was what he was asking you to do. Not turn your mother out into a home or offload her onto one of your sisters so you could make a quick buck. So much for that special bond. He would be ashamed of you. Does your mom want to go to a retirement home? If not, then you're the a-hole. She should get to live there until she passes. It was her home too, even if her name is not on the deed. She lived there her whole life, raised you there, cleaned and cooked and helped with the upkeep. To toss her in a home if she does not want to go is criminal. If she wants to go, then not the a-hole. Do what you want with the house.